Welcome back to another Jeff Reviews for you. And as you saw in this video, we are going to be taking apart our sand filter, replacing that sand and getting us up and ready for a new swim season. You know what though? Enough talk. Let's get right into this review. The first thing you want to do is actually turn off the power to your pump. Mine is just through a switch right there, so we are off. Next, we're just going to disconnect some of the lines here that are connected right into the water supply lines right here. So we're going to disconnect the union, disconnect this piece right here, and then pull our filter assembly completely out. It's time to replace the sand in our Hayward Pro Series water filter. Let's get this party started. Our first step is to actually remove the collar. There are screws on either side, and I've already actually taken my screws out or the bolts out. So you just pop this collar out. It is in two pieces, one on this side and one on the other. Once I get it out, I like to make sure I put the bolts right here on the screws and set it aside for safekeeping. Now we're going to take the top part right off. I'm going to grab a hold of the sides. As you see right here, I'm missing my pressure gauge. That's because when I took it off the base, I actually cracked it off, but I have a new one to replace that later. All right, so we're going to take this up, and you can see that my pole here is still connected. Sometimes yours might come out. You're going to quickly notice that you can't get the pole out because of these fingers attached here at the bottom. The cool thing about these is you just pop them up all the way around, and you can get it out the hole. Now that we bent up all the fingers, we can take out that piece. You can see the sand there on the inside. It's pretty dry. I took this off and let it sit out for a few hours. Ideally, this is best to do at the beginning of the season when this is dry. Right now, mine's a little wet, but it's going to be okay. I'm actually going to tip this upside down into a wheelbarrow to get most of that sand out. There you have it. Our old sand has been dumped out. I'm going to take this and dump it in the woods, but now what I'm going to do is spray out the inside of the filter just to rinse out the rest of that sand. I don't know how much of that can be seen on the video, but what I'm doing is just rinsing off the sides of the sand. I'm going to fill it up for just a little bit, spinning this around, and I'm going to dump it out. As an extra precaution, I always clean out the inside of the basin here that holds my sand. Therefore, I know I'm starting with a completely clean surface. Before I assemble this back together, I actually want to take a look at the laterals. And the reason is because last season, I remember getting some sand in through the filter, and that typically means your laterals are broken in some place. And I do see that a lot of these there's some splits here. A couple of these have actually fallen out and are broken. So I'm probably going to replace this unit. Fast forward a week and our new lateral assembly has come in. These ones are definitely a whole lot stronger. I don't worry about the sand coming in here. I'm really glad that I replaced mine this season. This is something I would do every few years, especially if you start getting sand in through your filter. I'm getting ready to put the lateral assembly into my Hayward filter there. So what I want you to know is when you put these in, of course you have to put them in with the fingers up, but then when you put them in, you make sure they go all the way down, and so they're like just like this. Therefore, they're not letting any sand get in. I've seen people do it like this and forget or so, and it just is an avenue for sand to enter your pool. So make sure they're all the way extended. Because the lateral setup here is new, I want to make sure it still fits into the top here where my multi-port is, and it does. It fits in there just fine. Now we officially install our lateral assembly. I'm putting it in, and as soon as I go in, I'm going to start extending out every one of those fingers. The lateral system is completely extended. What I'm going to do now, before I add my sand, I'm actually going to put water into the base here just up until I reach the fingers. This is sort of to protect them when I start putting the sand in. It's time for us to add our sand. So as a precaution, I like to put tape across the top. Normally I put duct tape. I can only find painter's tape, so I just cover it across the top, something I can get off real quick after I add the sand. You just don't want sand going down this tube. Now we're gonna pour in our pool filter sand. And what I wanna say is make sure you get the right kind of product for your filter. Don't get regular sand. Make sure it is pool filter sand. I always cut the corner here off of the bag so I can pour it in easily. Here goes nothing. I just like to spin it around, make sure I get it in there evenly. You can see actually we needed the tape, so we're going to brush that sand off, remove this tape, and then put back our assembly all together. In all, I put 100 pounds, which was 2 bags for me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to check the O-ring right here on the fixture, make sure it's all cleaned off. I'm going to assemble it in through the tube there of my lateral and push this down. So we're going to be taking this apart. Some filters, you actually have to mark where these go together. Mine actually has a corresponding piece right here, so I know how to assemble it every time. But just make sure you check out your unit specifically so you don't put this on the wrong way. We've just tightened the collar down, so we're good to go. I also took apart the multi-port section here because I wanted to see if I had to replace this gasket, and absolutely, just by looking at that, I absolutely need to replace this. It's not something I do every single time, but I do check it just to make sure I don't get any leaks. Now, I also made sure to completely clean out this section here. I want no sand or debris or anything in there. Before you put your collar back on, make sure you have the pump top situated exactly the way you want it. Now just slip it in place. You gotta clip on the top to the base. We're gonna line up our bolts. My recommendation is to alternate back and forth, tightening down the screws. I also say do this by hand with a hand screwdriver. Do not use a power drill because this is made out of plastic. You can easily snap it. So just take your time, go back and forth so it's even, and there you go. All right, let's install our new PSI gauge. I did wrap it in Teflon. We're just gonna start screwing it around in there until it's tight. I also just hand tighten this. If I need to with a little wrench, do it later. Well, that's something I take into consideration then. There we go, now I can see it. And just like that, in about 20 minutes, you're done filling up your sand. What I do now is I'm gonna go hook this back up to all the different pipes. I'm gonna put my filter in backwash so it sort of fills the pump back up that way. You could fill it up with water, but right now that'd be way too heavy for me. Now you can get back to filtering your pool and enjoying the summer sun. In this video, we were intending just to replace the sand in our filter, but as you noticed, we had to get into some of the maintenance issues, so it was really good that we talked about the laterals, we replaced some gaskets, we even replaced our PSI indicator just so we know how much pressure is going in through that tank. It is very important to have routine maintenance completed on your unit, therefore you can keep it up and running in good condition. I knew that I had to replace the laterals in mine because I did have some sand getting in through the filter, so that's a telltale sign. If you have sand coming into your pool through the filter, it's most likely something wrong with your laterals. As far as the gaskets go, I just really take a look at them. If they look worn down, I do replace them. If you start seeing water coming out of your discharge pipe when you're actually running the pump itself, it's probably something with your multi-port gasket, so that's just an idea for you that you might need to replace that as well. Since this is turned into a maintenance video, I decided to add a way to patch your pool liner. This is intended for an above ground pool or a liner pool. You can see that we have a hole with the water just spewing out. Now you're supposed to make sure the liner is completely clear of any kind of oil. Of course, for this pool patch, we are going to be using the Flex Tape Pool Patch Kit, which just consists of flex tape and some flex glue. We take our flex tape and peel off the protective backing. The cool thing about this is you can really just apply this underwater. To make your bond extra secure, you could also use it in collaboration with the flex glue. And if you want to see my full review video on this pool patch, I will link it at the end. See how that just made a nice tight bond? Now you can swim for the rest of the season. I will have a complete parts list of everything that I utilized in this video listed in the description. Anyway, that was my full review of changing out the sand and then doing some maintenance on your pool filter. This is Jeff with Jeff Reviews for You. As always, thanks for stopping by and I hope you have a great day.